Oh, oh. Sharing my screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Yes, brother. Sairam. It was an inspiring commentary on the Bhagavata that we saw as we accompanied Baba to Shampara. We could see in the face of simple rural folk who raced from furrowed fields across canals and fences towards the car of Baba the order that filled the hearts of the cowherds of Vrindavan. As we neared the village, the pages of the Bhagavata became more legible. Toddlers, boys and girls, maids and mothers, stalwart youth and tottering aged, they beamed in unspeakable joy. They never imagined that the Lord would so readily respond to their prayers and actually come along the dusty roads and cow-dung smelling lanes right up to the village hall. Baba was all love and grace to those sacred souls. When he found someone racing along to catch a glimpse, he asked that the car be slowed so that he could have the coveted darshan. When the group riding to the village on bullock cart was overtaken by the car, he halted a little so that the occupants could alight and slake their thirst. He stopped when he saw riots bent with age trudging along to the village to fill their eyes with him and gave them fruit so that they can return home without trudging any further. There was an old villager who was driving a few sheep to Shampara. Baba asked the car to slow down so that he could have darshan. He wanted the horn to be sounded so that he could turn around. But no, he was deaf to the call of grace. Baba said, "Poor fellow, next time," and the car gathered speed. The village was drunk with holy joy. Baba told the gathering, "You have been yearning for my coming among you for 6 long years."
If a strong enough evidence is presented throughout the court process, all the way up to SCOTUS.
Sorry about that. The village was drunk with holy joy. Baba told the gathering, "You have been yearning for my coming among you for 6 long years. Therefore, I have come now to cool your hearts and to give you joy." He warned them against the temptation of noise and glare of towns and cities. There, man has become quarrelsome, greedy, and cruel. The towns standardize the speech, the habits, and the attitudes of man to a vulgar pattern. There, man is an animal, which is petted and humored to turn wild. The divinity of man is ignored in the rush and worry, in the struggle for possessions and pomp. Learn to be content and happy where you are. Do not run towards towns hoping to have happiness and contentment there. They are inner riches, not outer acquisitions. Baba has given this advice to every village he has gone into. At Satyavada, which he visited later during his tour, he said, "Humility and reverence are fast disappearing in towns. Uppishness and irreverence are rampant. The fear of sin has faded. The city dweller has no faith left in God or his brother." But these virtues, humility, reverence, dread of sin, faith in the victory of truth, and the efficacy of virtue in the existence of an ever present witness, these are still alive in the villages. From Kakinada, Baba proceeded to Pithapuram, where a huge gathering had collected amidst the ruins of, of a historic fort. These bastions and turrets were once symbols of power and pride. Now they are grim reminders of the frailty and fickleness of fortune, Baba said. These pathetic walls teach you that time is the greatest conqueror, he told the people. Yalamanchili, a village on the borders of Vishakhapatnam district, was the next place. which received Baba's grace. 50,000 persons had gathered there to see and listen and carry home the precious acquisition. I do not accept from you flowers that fade, fruit that rots, coins that have no currency beyond the boundary. Give me the lotus that blooms in your inner Manasa Sarovar, in the pure, pellucid waters of your inner consciousness. Give me the fruit of your holiness and your and steady discipline, he asked. Then Baba entered the delta of the Godavari River, the Konasima as it is called, the region which Baba says is the home of traditional scholarship in the Vedas and Shastras, the nursery of learned and versatile pundits in all branches of the ancient learning. Naturally, his discourses at Amalapuram, the center of the deltaic area, were addressed to the repositories of ancient culture and guardians of Vedic learning. About 300 about 300,000 people filled the town of Amalapuram when Baba was there. By car and by boat, by bus and cart, on cycles and on foot, they trekked to have his darshan and to listen to the message of strength and joy. Baba gave darshan whenever the gathering on the roads before his residence grew too large. He addressed the gathering for 10 to 15 minutes every hour or so in order to reduce the pressure on the meager resources of the town to cater to non residents. In spite of this, the evening meetings were huge, mammoth affairs. Baba said, "You have come in hundreds of thousands from all the villages and towns, from miles around, spending time and money and undergoing great exertion. Take back this lesson from here. Retain at least this much out of the hours of listening you must do. Attachment causes grief, and detachment gives joy." He said that the Pandits have the key to open the treasure of detachment. Fortunately, there are some Pandits in this region who preserve faith in that key and who are serene in the face of loss or gain, fame or calumny. They are not news, or and so you will find they are not news. So you will find no reference to them in the papers. No one worries about them. They do not worry anyone. People know more about film stars now than about sages and saints in their own midst. Baba is moved by the love that streams out towards him from the lakhs of beaming faces that are filled with indescribable joy when he grants darshan. He often says, "I do not like to interrupt this transfer of ananda from you to me and me to you by starting a discourse. It seems as if this is ample recompense for all the trouble and yearning." At Amalapuram, he told the people, "I can understand the depth of your love. You have denied yourself food, sleep, and rest, struggling for a place to squat, a cup of water to drink, a patch in the shade. You have moved en masse from your villages like ants from ant hills, issuing out for sunshine, for sugar. You have the hunger for God, the thirst for spiritual light." From Amalapuram, Baba proceeded to Rajahmundry, near where the genius of Sir Henry Cotton devised an anicut across the Godavari River to curb the raging flood and fertilize vast deltaic region. This was about a century ago. The inhabitants of Delta were so grateful to Sir Henry for his engineering skill and foresight that they revered the anicut site as a holy place, where a bath in the sacred spot is felt as sacrosanct as at the site sanctified by a Vedic saint. Rajahmundry and or Rajamahendravaram, as it is known to the natives, is a place full of historic memories, cultural relics, and religious festivals. Baba reached the town in time for the valedictory offering of a 3-day yajna performed by devotees in the temple of Vishweshwara, the Lord of the Universe. Baba casually moved around the corridors of temple. He peeped into the shrine of the consort, the Shakti, personified grace. Annapurna, the grantor of Anna or sustenance to the universe. He saw the stone idol and said, "Oh, she feeds the entire community of living beings, but she herself is poor. She has no nose ring." With these words, he waved his hand, and lo, a big, bright diamond nose ring had formed itself in that hand. It was clipped on the nose. He gave the performers of the yajna confidence and courage by showing them that good deeds done in a dedicatory spirit always yielded fruit. The final offering of sacred objects in the sacrificial fire was accompanied by a downpour of unexpected rain. The rain that fell this morning and surprised everyone did not surprise me, for it is the inevitable consequence of the yaga. It is a special science which these pundits know. You laugh at a sculptor chipping flakes off of a piece of rock. You call it waste of precious stone and precious time, for you do not know that when he finishes chipping, a beautiful statue will emerge. You suffer from short sight and from ignorance. Baba gives the amrita he creates to everyone present. Differences in economic status, scholarly attainments, or caste affiliations disappear before the light of his grace. All are his children. In his discourses, he gives the amrita of Upanishadic teachings to all who have ears to listen in sweet, simple story style. Some of you may ask, why tell such great truths to these vast gatherings? Truths that have to be whispered in the ears of the ardent seekers only? How do you know that there are not many such here? I know that there are many. They will treasure the truth, ruminate over it, and use it when need is acute. They will then say, "Ah, Baba told us this at Rajmandri," and derive strength therefrom. Nothing is Nothing that is experienced will go to waste. It will shape the course of events. It will change attitudes and habits. It will clarify and purify situations. There was a father and son who listened. The son was an ardent seeker. He saw, he heard, he imbibed. When he returned home, he had no thought other than of God. He dedicated all his conscious moments to God. The father too was proud of the son. He was happy that his son had been confirmed in a godly path. He too was so firmly established in sadhana that when his son died a few months later in perfect bliss, with the name of and form of Baba on his tongue and his eye, the father wrote to Baba, "My son had a happy end. He had no other aspiration than to merge in God. I am glad that this son of mine had such a life and such an inevitable and enviable end." The word had clarified and purified two listeners at Rajamundry. Who knows but he which field is ready for the seed? Baba told the vast gathering at Rajamundry that the leaders of the country had to plan not only for prosperity, but also for counteracting the calamity of prosperity. In the West, where nations have highest standard of living and the means of material comfort are within the reach of all, anxiety and moral anarchy are affecting the social fabric. The individual is torn by frustration and fear. Insanity and suicide are increasing. Flippancy, misdemeanor, and irreverence are rampant. Man is deluded into believing that he is bent by blasts of grief and joy. But he is immortal by nature, beyond the atmosphere of agony and joy, of the twin pulls of likes and dislikes. At the Hindu Samaj Rajmandri, Baba presided over a gathering called together to honor three renowned pundits who were members of the Central Committee of Prashanti Vidwan Mahasabha. Become aware of your illness then. Long for the cure. See the physician. Take in the medicine. Follow the regimen he prescribes. That is the only way to be healthy again. These pundits and men like them have a knowledge of the cure that will make you free, he said. Baba visited Kadali, Kadali and Rajol village in the Delta and then proceeded to the village of Satyavada, to which the yearning of rural hearts drew him. The village houses have thick and high mud walls around them, and so Baba could not grant darshan to the thousands who have filled the narrow serpentine lanes. Sensing the anguish of the crowds outside the wall, Baba had a ladder brought, a narrow bamboo contraption with 8 horizontal rods as steps. He climbed it to reach the precarious foothold on the crest of the wall. He stood there, silhouetted against the sky, in the hot sun to confer the coveted darshan to the people. I have seen him ascend the parapet walls of storied bungalows and the top of his own car in order to afford darshan to the milling crowds and to calm their ardor. In Bombay, he has walked along the parapet of the Gwalior Palace. In Kurnool, he has stood on the narrow slab on top of an arch. In Budili, he has stood on a chair placed on a bullock cart. In Trivandrum, he stood on the roof of a Fiat car in the hot sun, so that more people could see him and be satisfied. But this quick climb along the bamboo ladder placed against a mud wall, this stately stand on the mud wall, shine in my memory as a golden reminder of his grace. And the discourse that the sea of faces drew forth from Baba, oh, it was a stream of nectar. You wake with a cock crow, you sleep when the birds fold their wings. You toil in the sun, soak in the rain, trudge in the slush, handle dung and dirt to provide food and raiment to your kith and kin, and even for those who scorn you and slight you, who profit by your ignorance of the fashions of the world. But is this all? Does this complete the whole duty of man? Is this the aim of all the eons of struggle that won for you this human frame? Do not let the fertile field lie fallow, infested with thorns and weeds. Plow the heart with virtuous deeds, irrigate it with a stream of prema, sow the seeds of the name of the Lord, pull out the weeds of greed, watch the crop grow, enclose it with a fence of discipline, and be happy when the flower of dhyana blooms and the grain of ananda is harvested. From Satyavada, Baba drove to Repalle, where at the temple he consecrated the marble idol of his previous body. The vast masses of pilgrims in his presence were calmed to perfect silence at his very darshan. It's the phenomenon that has to be believed, that has to be seen to be believed. And Baba too spoke on silence. The crocodile is happy and unharmed. It is undefeatable in the depths of the lake or river. Once it sprawls on the land, it becomes the target of death, the plaything of man. The depths, they are your refuge, the source of your strength. Do not stray into the shallows or the sands. In the depths, you have the silence, where you can converse with God. Soon after Baba returned to Prashanti Nilayam, Baba was at Bombay. It was on the 6th day of June that he has reached that city, his second visit. Oh, really? He was in Bombay. I have no words to describe the occasion, writes Honorable Sri P.K. Sawant, the Home Minister of the Government of Maharashtra for many years chairman of Shri Sai Baba Sansthan. A magnificently organized meeting was held in the Shanmukananda Hall in Matunga the next day. It was a sight for gods, writes Sri Savant. It was the proudest day in my life, he says. On the same day, Baba inaugurated the Maharashtra branch of the Prashanti Vidwan Mahasabha. Baba said that the present crisis in human history can be averted by propagating the eternal values for which this country has stood for generations. Next day, a meeting of the committee of the Mahasabha was held, when one of the members read a poem of his named Navaratnamala, the garland of 9 gems. Baba talked on gems, false and genuine, and among gems on the diamond. He said that when the mind dies and all agitations are stilled, one becomes a better gem called diamine. That evening, Baba addressed another mammoth gathering at the Andhra Mahasabha, where he laid emphasis on the fundamentals of integrated life. Baba met with the heads of many religious sects and faiths and discussed with them ways of ways and means of deepening the springs of faith. Baba returned to Bangalore by car with a few hours halt at Pandharpur, the, ho- the holy place consecrated by Panduranga. He himself had taught comrades of his childhood days the Pandari bhajan songs on the Panduranga manifestation of the Lord on Rukmabai, his consort, on the Chandrabhaga River that was sanctified by association with the place, on the I can't read. Okay, on the arduous journey on foot that the pilgrim had put up with for days. At the first glimpse of the temple steeple, the thrill one experienced when he crossed the sacred threshold, all written by him. Many of these he sings even today. When he sings, when his devotees pray, many have become regular features in the repertoire of bhajan parties in surrounding villages. Baba entered the temple and took his devotees around, an act of grace that he has done so often in the past as human manifestation of Panduranga. He placed a wedding jewel of gold, a Mangala Sutra, created on the spot in his palm around the neck of Rukmabai. For those who have the unique good fortune of traveling with Baba in his car, it is sweetness, sweetness all the way, all the time. They can witness the flow of prema in every act and word of his. A cowherd tending cattle on the hills will be called near and given fruits. A blind beggar will get a fiver with a warning not to mislay it or mistake it as just paper. A woman on the way to a weekly market, tottering under the weight of the load on her head, will receive a token of his grace. Baba is never too busy to leave the little ones of the earth unnoticed. For those in his car, the journey is sweeter still. Baba sings Marathi, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and English songs. He prods and teases with questions in order to teach and remove lurking doubts. We see in him the very embodiment of Ananda, fresh as a flower, whatever the hour, the very intimate friend, the very erudite scholar, the very picture of charm. Quite suddenly, his grace may take the form of a miracle. Once, while returning from Hyderabad, the car was stopped near the bridge over the river Krishna because some of us prayed that he should give us sweets from out of his hands, created especially for us. He had the car stopped. He asked us to pick a stone and give it into his hands. We didn't know why. A piece of road metal from nearby heap piled for repairing that bit of road was given. He said, "Bring a flat piece of stone. How can you break this one into pieces with your fingers?" He asked, throwing that into the distance. We wondered why he should he should be concerned with breaking a stone into pieces. A flat, thin piece of stone was, however, brought and given. He held it in his hand and gave it back. It became a flat, thin piece of sugar candy. We could easily break it into pieces with our hands and eat it. Navaratri or Dasara is a festival for the worship of the primal urge that disturbed the beginningless equilibrium and caused all this divine delusion called creation. The Jagat or universe is a vast agitation trying to regain the equanimity that was then lost. Once the equanimity is attained, the ideas of past, present, and future, of manifoldness, of gain and loss, of pleasant and unpleasant will disappear. The three qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas, the calm, the active, and the dull, affect the consciousness, and so we have the three forms Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati, which are worshipped for 3 days, each during this festival. With their grace, we can gain equanimity. Baba once introduced the festival of the 1965 with the words Dasara celebrates the victory of forces of righteousness over the forces of evil. They were able to win because Parashakti, the dynamic aspect of divinity, the power that has elaborated God into all this manifoldness, all this variety, and all this beauty, came to their succor and lent her strength. Then, referring to the invasion of India by Pakistan, which had just concluded in a ceasefire arranged by the UNO, he said, this country had to meet unrighteous forces, and Parashakti had saved it from dishonor and defeat. Baba spoke of the agitation that affected many on account of the war and on the borders, and the fear that the Dasara might be cancelled by Baba, and as was done at Mysore and elsewhere. In spite of obstacles, Baba said, referring to the last minute somersaults of national representatives at the UN headquarters and the precarious chances that peace had until the very last minute. In spite of the obstacles, the fighting has stopped, peace is restored. And Baba added, this is another instance of grace which Prashant Nilayam showers. This is the way Mahima works. It was the will of the Lord that tilted the balance in time. On the first day of Dasra, the Satyasai hospital celebrates its annual day, and Baba discourses on the physical and mental basis of health. These deal with the psychosomatic and even deeper causes of illness and are valuable lessons for medical practitioners. In 1965, for example, he spoke of ill health being a social product. For the sick and suffering are limbs of the same corporate body. He advised against the ascetic view of the body. Disgust is not desirable towards anything in creation. Everything is God's handiwork, an example of His glory, a glimpse of His majesty. He recommended proper attention to the body as an instrument for securing liberation. He is against coddling and over fondling. When you believe that you are the body will demand from you more food, more variety in food, more attention in the outward appearance, more care for comfort. A large portion of food now consumed is superfluous and positively harmful. Man can live happily on much less and more healthily. Baba advised against the modern instruments of popular education, which infect people with discontent, despair, and distress. People are getting anxious and afraid of things they do not understand. They can neither avoid them nor correct them. The radio, the newspaper, the cinema all scare people into panic about health, the standards of living, social security, and national safety. Every hour of listening and reading is an extra dose of anxiety. Pleasure has become the universal port of destination, and so there is a great deal of frustration and repression. People live and die without recognizing the loss. Society is frightened at its own shadow, its hidden discontent, and its suppressed turmoil. Fear is the biggest cause of illness. So, Baba tries to restore faith so that fear may fade. Transfer your faith from pills to providence. Put your trust in Madhava, not in medicines. Resort to prayers, sadhana, japa, dhyana, and not injections. They are the vitamins you need. No tablet is as efficacious as Ramanama. Accept the Ananda way, the sadhana way, to peace and happiness and health. That is the call of the voice divine. The Bombay Satyasai Seva Samiti brought to Prashant Nilayam a pictorial exhibition they had prepared with the help of artists of high repute depicting the teachings of Baba. This was inaugurated by thousands. It was liked so much that the van which carried it had to tour for 3 months all over the peninsular India and even beyond to bring inspiration and instruction to about 3 lakhs of people. Baba took under the wings of Prashanti Vidwan Mahasabha, an institution that was rendering human service to feed the roots of devotion among people, the Sanatana Bhagavata Bhakta Samaj, consisting of scholars, musicians, poets, and expounders of scriptures, reciters of epics, storytellers, minstrels, all of high order of skill and efficiency. They go in groups for 3 or 4 days at a stretch to a place through songs and music and speeches. They stir the place into a new awareness of their spiritual heritage. No one who takes in vitamin G, God, can escape His grace.
Thank you, brother. Very wonderful reading. Sundaram, sister.
Siram, brother. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Siram. Every Dasara now, Baba arranges a Saptaha Yajna, which respects the Vedic injections and the Vedic spirit of the universality of the Godhead. Sun worship, image worship, fire consecration, the contemplation of the formless, and the recitation of the glories of the various manifestations of God with name and form are carried on in full view of the thousands of devoted aspirants. At the crucial moment of the final offering of all the ceremonial sacred articles in the raising flames, the governor of Andhra Pradesh, Dr. Pattom Tanu Pillai, was present. Later, he opened the Shanti Vedika, an 8-pillared mandap in classical style with frescoes of Gitopadesha scene and of a scene from the Ramayana and of the Shivalinga and Pranava, from where Baba discourses to vast seas of heads on special occasions. Governor presided over another function where Baba requested him to honor 4 outstanding scholars of Andhra Pradesh, members of the Prashanti Vidwan Mahasabha, with golden bracelets worn on the arm as mark of undisputed superiority in Shastric learning. His Excellency said, to be honored at this center of spirituality, which influences all the states of India and even countries in other continents, is a great inspiration. The next day was the Poets' Day, when poems in Sanskrit, Telugu, Urdu, Tamil, Kannada, and English were read before him. Of course, Baba had every valuable advice to give them. The poet is able to discover more than the mere thinker. He recognizes and knows the next step and the next. In fact, he is aware of the goal. The Kavi or poet is divine in the estimation of India. So he has tremendous responsibility. He is Anushastira, who lays down the law and the norms. He should not trail behind the whims of the mob in search of cheap fame or counterfeit prosperity. He must fertilize and canalize the divine urge in man. Poems that deal with basic problems of life and death, of freedom and destiny, of truth and delusion, of virtue and temptation, of ascent and descent, of aspiration and achievement. These will last for ages, provided something deep in man, deeper than the senses, or reason, or passion, is the inspiration, the sources of illumination. Man's struggle to discover the Creator in the creation will arouse genuine enthusiasm. Baba spoke against flimsy, foppish poetry, fiery, fuming verses, meaningless lits and jumbles. Do not infect others with your superstitions and perplexities. Thus, Dasara was rendered into a seminar on spiritual study in an institute of spiritual rehabilitation. Soon after, Baba went to Hindupur, a town about 40 miles away, which he had visited last only as a young boy with his Pandari Bhajan group of comrades. He said that people who did not approach fire would never know its warmth. He playfully blamed the citizens for being content so long with the light emanating from the fire. Baba hoisted the national flag in the municipal high school stadium at 8 a.m., for it was the diamond jubilee of the school. He was then taken in procession through the streets of town in an open jeep, while devotees felt that he was in the scorching sun for too long. Baba expressed his joy that the jeep wended its way through all the roads and bylanes of the town. How else could the sick, the weak, the lame, the old get my darshan? He asked. He found time during the hot hours of the day to address the Rotary Club of Hindupur, the club which thus won the honor of being the first recipient of that grace. Baba's address was an eye-opener to many a social worker and enthusiast for international understanding. Living in the ancient land, suffused with culture, based on detachment and sacrifice, where everyone is revered as reflections of oneself, who is himself a reflection of the ultimate absolute. Rotarians will find that their ideals are native to the people here. The query, who belongs to whom? Am I my brother's keeper? Is alien to Indian thought. Here, Each is all and all is one. One, namely, he or it or that. This has been the daily date of India since the beginning of time, Baba told them. He spoke also to the students of the college, asking them to learn the principles of Sanatana Dharma. Whether you have it in your curriculum or not, practice at least the first step in sadhana. Silence, meditation, sweet and soft speech, control of the senses, recitation of the name of God, reading of the scriptures, and social service. Avoid wasteful, debilitating recreation. Maintain your health intact by sane habits. Become worthy sons and daughters of the motherland. Baba considers that the system of education now being worked out in the schools is harmful to the best interest of the children and the community. More information is forced in, less inspiration to seek, it is imparted. Skills are added, virtues are subtracted. Respect for the sacred texts, sages, and the holy places have diminished, and as a consequence, respect for the land that produced them has also declined. The birthday of Baba was an occasion for the offering of grateful homage by tens of thousands and the gift of grace by Baba to each one of them. Do not try to get grace by offering me flowers that fade, fruits that rot, leaves that dry, and water that evaporates. Give me something divine. If you want the divine, Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, these are divine. He reiterated, Baba conferred the joy of anointing him on the sacred day on a few old couples chosen from Mysore, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, and Madras. Among them, there was a couple where the husband was blind and the another where the wife was blind. The ecstasy of the blind can well be left to imagination. Referring to the eclipse of the sun, which happened that day, Baba said, many people wrote to inquire whether the festival is postponed on the account of this. But Baba said, do not worry. When the shadow of some foul passion, some dark desire, some evil greed, some monstrous thought casts its omniscience gloom on your mind, that is the inauspicious eclipse you have to avoid. Baba does not appreciate the celebration of what is called his birthday. He is anxious that we should celebrate rather the day he is born in each of us, or to put it more clearly, the day when we recognize that he is the inner core of each of us. So the birthday celebrations are used by him only to reveal the unknowable depth of his mystery to those who train themselves on having plumbed it. Gifts of grace. Baba grants grace, but never allows it to foster the ego in man. The vibhuti stops, or some other harsh reminder is given when the ego raises its ugly head. Hysteria, Baba calls it. When a person gets intoxicated with pride or envy as a result of this shower, one has to be constantly aware of one's weakness, and one has to be praying every moment for the faith necessary to receive the grace, or else one has no right to claim kinship with the Sai family. At Shirdi, Baba gave the divine panacea, the ash contacted by his divine hand from the dhuni or fire that was always lit and active in the masjid room where he spent his days. Now the dhuni is in his own hands, ever ready to yield the precious gift. He has only to will and wave. Nor is it essential that the ash or vibhuti, as it is called in Sanskrit, should be so created. Baba wills, but does not wave his hand. Yet the vibhuti flows as a stream of grace, where he wills, when he wills. This is the greatest of contemporary miracles, this overflowing shower of divine vibhuti grace. The shower comes silent and unannounced, like dew before the dawn on blossoms in the fields. An anxious parent inquired whether the appearance of ash cluster on the picture of Baba that he was worshipping, boded ill, for he had met Baba a few weeks prior about a missing son, and the ash for him was a reminder of cremation and death. Baba directed me to write to the correspondent at Vibhuti on and from his picture, and the picture of other forms of God can never be so interpreted. It is a sign of grace. This happened in a village in Tanjore district. At Paramathi in Salem district, a person who had not visited Prashanti Nilayam and who had not met Baba in person had a picture of Baba in his shrine. He writes, since the second last month, ash as well as Amrit are falling in showers of Baba's picture. I'm collecting them and giving them to the people who come. But I have extra stock with me, which is daily accumulating. Advise me, what should I do with these? Can I put them into the holy Kaveri river that is near my place? Another correspondent from Cochin wrote about the same time to the editor of the Sanatana Sarathi. A few days back, I found that an oily fluid was flowing from one side of the glass of the framed picture of Bhagwan. There are red dots of kumkum and white dots of vibhuti that have appeared on the glass. As I am not quite sure what the above things relate to, I have not given any publicity to this. I shall be highly grateful if you can kindly enlighten me. What could I do except congratulating him on the unique proof he had before his eyes of majestic glory of Baba? Or I shall quote from a letter about a happening in Calcutta. I am a devotee of Baba for several years, but my brother's son at Calcutta have not seen Baba. So they are naturally upset when Vibhuti appears and can be collected not only from Baba's picture, but from all other 10 pictures of Hindu gods. Vibhuti is also originated from the photograph of my brother who died some 8 years ago. Of course, he was a very pious and simple man with a large heart. On the Ashtami day, when our family deity at Vaikom is taken out in the annual procession, the vibhuti that showered from Baba's picture was the same in texture, color, taste, and density as the ash given at Vaikom as prasad. Please find out the significance of all this and let me know what I should do. K. Rajarama Rao from Kanoji near Vittal in South Kannada district, Mysore, was afflicted with doubt. He wrote to the editor, my youngest sister noticed the vibhuti at about 9:30 a.m. Immediately, a piece of paper was kept beneath the photo, and the shovels were collected on it. Please write to me how we should use the vibhuti that has fallen and is falling. The chief chemist of an explosive factory at Pune did not waste time in asking questions and waiting for answers. He was too full of chemistry for that. He examined the frame, the glass, the cardboard placed behind, and wiped and turned it upside down. But he could not discover where from and wherefore the ash emanated. He came to Baba at Prashanti Nilayam. Baba called him in, and after the interview, when he left, he said, I am giving you Udi at home, at Pune, not here, go. That was the confirmation, the benediction, and the revelation. The circle inspector of police quite accidentally came by two photograph portraits of Baba on 26th November 1965. He had them framed and kept in his shrine. He and his wife were inspired to hurry up to Prashanti Nilayam, which they reached on the 28th. They were called in and blessed by Baba on the 29th itself. When they left, Baba patted him on the shoulder and said, I shall come there. How? When? He could not ask. Baba demonstrated to him his arrival and presence by showering vibhuti from his portraits. That was fulfillment enough, and to demonstrate that he was all the manifestations of God, known and unknown. It fell in continuous showers from the portraits of all manifestations. Krishna, Rama, Shiva, Muruga, Krishna as installed at Guruvayur, and Christ. Perhaps Baba had a special reason for willing that the picture of Jesus showered the amazing new sign of grace. For on the 24th day of February, a Christian who had gone far astray was brought to this house of wonder. He heard the bhajan from the veranda. He peeped in through the window. He saw the picture of Christ. He trembled before a vision of Satya Sai Baba in awe and in penitence. And he burst into declaration, I will correct myself. I shall not drink anymore. He has been saved and accepted as a child by Baba in his abundant love. That picture of the shrine at Guruvayur too has a special importance. At Guruvayur, there are big brass lamps fed on oil placed in the shrine. Every picture of the shrine has two of these depicted on either side of the idol. The shrine has been immortalized by the great poet Saint Narayana Bhattatirippad, who cured himself of chronic rheumatism by worshipping the idol through his imitable rendering of the glory of Krishna, the Narayaniyam. Therefore, the oil from the lamps inside the shrine is held as specific of rheumatism by people from all parts of the land. They take it reverentially and use it with enormous faith. Baba is the form that is in the innermost shrine of all temples. So he willed that oil be given from the lamps in the picture of that shrine. This resulted in drops of oil falling from the edges of the painted lamps in the printed picture of the Lord of Guruvayur in the shrine room of the Circle Inspector of Police. It was collected and used for the same curative purpose. It was seen and examined by priests associated long with the temple. They declared that the oil was indisputably genuine, identical with that available at the original shrine. And not in the homes of individual bhaktas only. Baba wills that his grace be showered in this form in prayer halls too. A Nataraja Pillai of Muvattupuga in Kerala writes Vibhuti and Kunkuma to be seen on the picture of all gods placed in the bhajan hall. To our extreme joy, it is very interesting to know that butter has emanated and is found in heaps in the palm of baby Krishna, pictured on a calendar huge on the wall. On a calendar hung on the wall. The picture depicts Yashoda, the mother, threatening her divine child with a stick for stealing butter. Baba characterizes the miracles of creating Vibhuti in the palm of the hand as my visiting card. He has visiting cards of various types and sizes, revealing more and more facets of his personality. They serve to announce the arrival of the avatar, the glad tidings of the advent of the savior of civilization from being degraded into a death trap of humanity. The showers of auspicious articles from the portraits of Baba and his manifold forms are only streamers, banners, headlines that serve to announce the same comforting news. No consecrated image has so far given such patent proof that it is saturated with divinity. No such daily dramatic evidence that one universal will thus correct the multifarious forces in the world. In the Bhagavad Gita, after awarding Arjuna a vision of himself as the universal will that is motivating all creation, Krishna says, Arjuna, this is but a fraction of my Vibhuti. My Vibhuti is endless. Vibhuti means power, might, splendor, glory, majesty. In the case of Baba, the Vibhuti that Baba gives, either himself directly or through his portraits indirectly, or through the portraits of his other forms that are revered by man, is endless in its Vibhuti. P.V. Natarajan from Kugalur wrote to the editor, Vibhuti is showered from the raised palm of Baba in the picture. This assures me that he is ever with me and that I need never be afraid. In the village of Sampagon, Dharmavar district, Vibhuti is falling from Baba's photograph in the houses of many devotees. Sri S.B. Kadakola wrote, seeing all this excitement, Dandaya Swami, Rachaya Swami, Salamat spoke challengingly. This must be false and faked. How can Bhasma or Vibhuti fall like this of its own accord? I too have a photo of Baba in my shrine. Why does this Vibhuti not fall from that? And the same day, Vibhuti was found all over the photo, sticking to it and showering from it. This continued for 3 days. A friend of Salamat came to his house during that period and said, how can Vibhuti be produced on this glass? The whole village is being misled by some types of mischief. He wiped the glass with a wet towel and squatted before it, declaring, now let me see what you call the Mahima of this Baba of yours. Let the shower of Vibhuti fall. Within 25 minutes, the shower reappeared. The quantity sticking to the glass was double the previous quantity. The critic fell prostrate before the picture. A mechanic in a sugar factory found that because the Vibhuti that showered from about 4 or 5 pictures of Baba in his house was extraordinarily sweet, and swam to eat it. He hastened to Baba to pray that the sweetness might be taken away, but Baba assured him that the ants will be kept away. And from the next day, the ants stayed away. There are some houses where the pictures shower Vibhuti on Thursdays only. Some where more is showered on festival days. When there are more to share it, some where the Vibhuti that is granted from each picture is different in taste and texture from that granted from the rest. If it is rather dark, grey and grainy, they call it Shirdi Vibhuti. If it is soft, fragrant, they call it Patti Vibhuti, and so on. So too the kumkum can be varied hues, the amrit of different consistencies, taste, and fragrance. The Saurashtra devotee wrote that the liquid that the portrait granted on the last day of Shravan, when they finished their month-long vow abstinence from salt, was salt water, with which they could resume their pre-vow life. Thus shines this saga of sovereignty of Baba over time and space, over matter and spirit. At Ankola, from the photograph of Bhagavan Satyasai Baba in our house, Vibhuti, Kumkum and Haldi powder have been showering since 2 months, writes an advocate. At Rajkot, on Vaikunta Ekadasi day, Vibhuti appeared. At Jamnagar on Mahashivaratri, to our great surprise, we saw Om and Shri written on the glass of our 4 big portraits hung in the wall. It was written in some oil liquid, which we could smell as Amrit. A doctor from Palghat writes, I prescribe the Vibhuti of Baba more than drugs. Baba is giving me a regular supply from the pictures in my house. Dr. Bailur in Santa Cruz is also in that happy situation. Advocate Saxena and of Rampur gets Vibhuti like this. Many devotees in Kharagpur, Jamshedpur, Calcutta, Trivandrum, Madras, Trichonapalli, and other towns and villages between the Himalayas and the Cape are granted these auspicious signs of grace in this amazingly convincing manner by Baba. When I prayed to Baba for permission to publish some of these incidents illustrating his majesty and glory, he remarked that it may be misinterpreted easily as propaganda. But the miracle is so widespread, so obvious, so easily liable to be examined and confirmed that misinterpretations will be quickly acknowledged by the critics as due to ignorance. At Salem, Vibhuti is falling from the pictures in the house of professor of physics of the local college. When he shows the picture to visitors, he cannot be accused of propaganda. I myself have sat on the floor of the house of Vimalananda in Shimoga, watching the piling up of Vibhuti grain by grain, second by second, dropping from the picture frame's edge. I have seen at Mangalore Vibhuti grains dropping from the right foot of Shirdi Baba's idol and forming a pile underneath. I have been most pleasantly surprised when hundreds of Amrit drops appeared suddenly over the big portrait of Baba at Devi Vilas College Road, Palghat, just when I finished Aarti after a talk on Baba's glory on the holy day of Shravan, celebrated throughout Kerala as Onam. The second objection that Baba raised when such incidents were proposed to be published was that it will make the person so blessed, very conceited, and lead to his spiritual ruin. This is the reason why Baba is against undue publicity being given to any grace that one receives from him. It is a gift that one should hold dear in the recesses of one's heart, that one should ruminate over in the silence of one's own deepest meditation. It is a secret sign of love from one's dearest beloved. Some have been led astray, however, for the ego raises its poisonous hood. They start advertising their spiritual superiority. They challenge others in the village to win such a grace from Baba. They compare and cavil. They compete and condemn. They inaugurate a chain of evil which robs them for their blessedness. Anxious to establish that they too are devotees of equal intensity, weak men, fake, and all are tared by the same brush. When the tricks is laid bare, for the truth must trump quickly. For truth must trump quickly. Let us leave such tricksters to the retribution in store for them and pay attention to the genuine votaries on whom Baba has conferred these and other signs of his incredible Mahima. The Nadaswaram Vidwan, who used to come every darshan and Shivaratri to play music at the Nilayam, had an uncle of his as an accompanist on the drums. His name is Ganesh. He writes, when I took leave of Baba after Birth Festival, 1965, he graciously assured me, you will have no trouble anymore. I am by your side always. I went with my nephew to Tiruvannamalai temple and after playing the music there for the 10-day festival, returned home to find showers of vibhuti falling profusely from the pictures of Baba and Sri Krishna, kept for worship in my house. I am overcome with joy. I pray to Baba that the showers may increase so that I can give it to all those who come. As a matter of fact, Baba has given inaccessible receptacles of vibhuti to a few devotees who will not misuse the gift for their own aggrandizement. If you have only to shake it with the name of Baba on your tongue and it fills itself. There was also a man who prayed to Baba that the vibhuti showers may stop. The poor goldsmith in Bombay did not have the patience. His work spot is under a staircase on the ground floor. He has vibhuti falling from a picture of Baba. He interrupts his work to receive the streams of visitors who come to see this most unscientific phenomenon of paper turning out ash. This other person lives in a single room with his wife and 3 children in a chawl in Bombay. He writes, Baba has granted me the grace of vibhuti showers from his portraits in my house, or rather room. As a result, hundreds from all the chawls around stream into my room, from the dawn to dusk and even far into night. It has become difficult for me to live in this place. Please ask Baba to stop this vibhuti. This is a very pathetic letter which no devotee will ever make unless his distress is unbearable. One can see that the vibhuti is genuine as a grief at the publicity that it got. Sri Vaidya of Navasari came to me at Prashant Nilayam and gave me a report of the activities of the Bhajan Society, which has built up. I found there an item, visits to places of Sai Leela, which drew my attention. He explained to me that in the village of Chinam, there was a devotee. in whose house Vibhuti and Kumkum were showering from Baba's pictures. At Stupa, when the bhajan started, Vibhuti shower started. He said, "This reminded me of an experience I had. In the shrine of an old Brahmin lady at Kalpati, there was a row of glass-framed pictures of Baba. When bhajan began, one of the pictures began swinging from right to left, slow and quick, according to the slowness of the beats. When the song ended, the picture came to a halt. Water that was kept before the picture of Baba as an offering to slake his thirst turned in a moment into fragrant flavored drink, which bhaktas termed Amrit. Moreover, Amrit flowed in a gush from the divine mouth in the picture. This reminds me of certain Vaikuntha Ekadasi day when Baba, sitting in the midst of 100 devotees, signed for a tumbler and poured Amrit into it, a glass full from his divine mouth. At Markapur, 10 miles of the party saw the same evidence of Baba's omnipresence and overflowing grace. Sairam Sushant, should I
Yeah.
go on or return?
No, I think we're good. Thank you so much, sister, for the fantastic meeting. We can conclude with Samasta Loka. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti